Hi everyone, Kim and Elson here in the living room, inviting you to join us on Fridays. This is the day. We're going to be talking with Father Josh Johnson about his new book, Pocket Guide to Overcoming the 7 Deadly Sins. Also, our friend Mike Reardon will be stopping by to talk about the Catholic Schools Foundation. It's going to be a great show. Please join us on Fridays. This is the day right here on Catholic TV, America's Catholic Television Network.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams, Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans. To break it down for us, you call for them every time. It's Mike Detillier of WWL Radio. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Eric.
How are you, my friend?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing okay.
Good. How was your ride in, you were in?
Mad Hatters.
Mad Hatters.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
It's, we've been there from day one with Mad Hatters, and enjoyable ride, great ride. And to see, you know, what Joy Lacoste and Gwen have done to build that parade up in Metairie. It's been really a lot of fun to experience it, and you know, on the float with Mike Hoss and with Bobby, and so we are entertaining to the rest of the group. Yes, indeed. Yes, and so we have a good time with it, but enjoyed it, and then had some fun, you know, rest of the parade with the grandkids. Right. You know, they 10 and 5, so good age to have it.
Best age.
And at 10 years old, I got a granddaughter that reaches me here.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
It won't be much longer that she'll be above me, but she's doing really well in gymnastics and qualified for the state meet and has finished second and third along the way, and so she's doing well. I don't know for how much longer, because you know, you go to these gymnastic meets and all the kids all look the same, and then she trots out and it's like, And so somebody told me one time, Mike, you got the Shaq O'Neal. She doesn't quite understand that, but I get it. I got
a basketball in her hand.
A little basketball. But she's
actually, she should put a golf club in her hand.
Well, what she's started up, and she had not played it before, was really good at it, is volleyball.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and she enjoys playing it. So we'll see how that transitions, but you know, you have a good time with the grandkids. You're still cool when they're young, but you know, when you get a little older, they want to hang out with with pops. Come on,
it's the best of times.
Yeah, best of it.
No doubt about it. Mike, again, WWL Radio. Also, again, people are always looking to you for draft information. Or you put anything out? I know the book's not out there anymore. But you put anything out on Saints Report, anything like that?
Yeah, we still do stuff with Saints Report and also with WWL.com, and we'll go through position by position with it. And we do that each and every year since I've been on WWL. So been able to do it that way. And I do it with my producer, Charlie Long, and he sets everything up. So we'll do it that way. Interesting draft. It's thick at some positions. It's not a star draft. It's a starter draft. They're going to have good players in this draft class, like they do every year, but it's not star-laden. And not at the quarterback position, which you'd really like.
Positions of strength?
Running back, got a lot of depth. Ashton Genty is a special player. You can tell. But then after that, there are probably 5 guys that I think could go from 20 to 55 in rounds 1 and 2. But then here comes the deluge. They probably got 14 guys afterwards. 3rd, 4th, 5th round. You're going to get some quality depth guys at running back. Tight end's good. It's not as good as it was 2 years ago, but there's a lot of talent depth at the tight end position. This has never happened to me. And this is 40 years. I have 24 of my top 75 players defensive line.
Really?
Eric,
it's that strong.
It's that strong. I've never had.
Is that interior or pass rush?
Well, it's the combination of both. But kind of what size you want, what you're looking for. I mean, it's all across the board. And now everything is sort of hybrid. Lucky to have Pete Jenkins on a couple of days ago. And so I talked to Pete about, and he was like, Mike, you know more about it than I do. Look what's not coming out of the high school ranks anymore. 3-4 outside linebackers. LSU's looking for them. Georgia's looking for them. Alabama's looking for them. Everybody's in the hunt. So when you go to these camps and there's a 6'2.5" or a 6'3" guy, I'm entering my junior year. You play defense? No, sir. I played tight end or receiver. What? You know, No, never played defense. Almost everyone. So Pete's deal is, Mike, you could load up those receivers and tight ends. I'd have to get 3 buses to bring them from one station to the next. The outside linebacker 3-4 variety, I could put them in a car. Eric, they're not there. And it is, I see it at the high school level, and it's trickling down into the college ranks. We are in the final days of Pompeii, so to speak, when it comes, of 3-4 outside linebackers.
So it's becoming obsolete then?
It is becoming a position really hard to find.
Well then, Staley is again known for the 3-4 defense with and of course he's defensive coordinator with New Orleans. And one of the things I've talked about on the radio show, and I'm sure you talked about it as well, the transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and the prototype players that you need, how does that work in New Orleans?
Okay. I know one guy that can do it. Chase Young.
All right.
And I think what you will see is a tight 4-man front. Not your traditional 3-4. I stand Chase Young up and I'll move him left and I'll move him right. I'll move him left, move him right. I'm not having you game plan to take him on one side of the field. I'm moving him around. But I think you'll see a very tight defensive front, not necessarily maybe somebody right on top of the nose, but shaded either left or right, but a little tighter. You know who runs a lot of that in college? Iowa. Watch Iowa's defense and how they run things. They do have a stand-up guy. Every year, they got a really good stand-up guy, and they move him. Every game, like you watch, he's right, and then halfway into the game, he's on the left, and then sometimes he's got his hand in the dirt. So it's not your standard 3-4 like we grew up watching. And I'll never forget Bum telling me this. He said, I'm the one that brought the 3-4 alignment into the NFL. He said it was a college defense.
It was.
And he says, so all these pro guys were, that ain't working here. He said, you know, and everybody thought I brought it to the game to get a better pass rush. He said, you know why I brought it to the NFL? Stop the run. Because he said, now I got an extra guy I can move around. You don't know where he's at. You don't know that second linebacker where he's coming from. And Pete Jenkins agreed with that, and he was like, you know, it's not your typical guys up front, but he said the keys are the 3-4 outside linebackers today. He said years ago, you had to get the nose.
You had to.
But he said today it's not necessarily the case. And the Saints do have a guy that can play the nose now, that he can kind of shade both sides of the center. But I think the key for this defense is going to be able to get the right pass rushers, the guys off the edge. You got one. Chase Young can play that spot. And if you're going to take a chance on a potential guy, take the chance on the 25-year-old. None of this 32-year-old guy and hoping he can help you. There is a body type on this team, but he's done nothing but play special teams. Isaiah Foskey. He could play that position.
Well, that's a lot.
I don't know if he can play. Now, that's the other spot. But Chase is definitely the guy I would say would be the joker. I'll move him around and say, you figure out where he's going to line up at. The other spot, I think that remains to be seen, and you may have to draft one.
Let's get back to the draft for a moment. Defensive line, is it more run-stuffing defensive linemen, or is it more edge defensive linemen?
It's kind of a cut right down the middle. I'll be honest with you. And depending on what you want to run, your traditional 4-3 defensive end, those guys are sort of getting hard to find too. But I look at Georgia. They got two guys that are prototypical. Okay, McCall on one side and Jalen Walker on the other. Okay, I could do it with both of them. You know, either one. They could play that 3-4 outside linebacker spot, and Jalen has.
Some people think Walker will be there at 9. Do you?
Eric, when I did my first draft, I wrote Jalen Walker's name by the Saints before I even put Cam Ward at 1.
Okay.
And then when I got down to Carolina at 8, scratch that babe out. I got him going at 8, and he could potentially be going at the 8 spot. What did they lack? Pass rush. Ever since they got rid of Brian Burns, they don't have no pass rush, nothing. Jalen Walker is the ultimate joker player. He did it, and man, to do this, you got to be one smart son of a gun. And Kirby Smart figured it out. He can do it. Left, right, even put him inside sometimes. So you're watching the center go to snap the ball, and he's used to seeing the middle linebacker, and they got the middle linebacker shaded to the right, and Jalen Walker sitting right over the top of him. I saw in 2 games the center missnapped the ball because he is so worried that I'm not going to get my hands on Walker. Okay, first things first as a center. You got to make sure the snap gets there, That's number one priority. But he was so concerned, and he had not seen it. And so what Kirby would do from time to time is shade that middle linebacker a little bit left, a little right, and you see Jalen start to line up outside, and then he rolls right over the center. And you can see that center's eyes, you know, he's looking like, am I going to get some help here? And a lot of times he didn't. Jalen shoot right up the middle. And then the next play, he's out on the edge, left. And then 2 plays later, he's out on the right. He's the ultimate joker player, and he drops back pretty well in coverage. Williams is more of the traditional 4-3 defensive end, but because of his body type, I'm not asking him to cover a guy 30 yards downfield. 5 to 8 yards. Hey, that's good enough for me if you're going to play that 3-4 outside linebacker.
Right.
Everything after that, the nickel is going to have to get involved. He could also play that particular position. The other guy that's interesting that might be there, and I know he can rush the quarterback, and that's Mike Green from Marshall.
Right. I've heard a lot about it. I have not seen him play.
In the last 2 years, I saw the transformation in him. And I thought he was a good to very good player as a junior. First game I saw him play this year, it looked like somebody had shot him out of a cannon. And like the left tackle, you got to laugh when you watch it on film and you stop it. And the left tackle sees him and he's kind of banked off to the edge. And you can see him start to widen his stance. And as soon as you see the snap, man, Green, he rolls right around it. He does it a couple times. So now the tackle is, man, I got to cover my edge. So he's starting to flank out. Green gives him a hard inside move, cuts right in, right straight to the. I guarantee you half of his sacks this year were not an edge. They were right up the middle on him. So he fooled that tackle. He's got a nice set of moves, counter moves to beat his man up front. He's not your prototypical size, but he can play 3-4 outside linebacker. I think in that defense he could. So it's what do you like in that area to go for?
And who do you think? What do you think Staley likes?
I think he would prefer your typical 3-4 big line, because here's the deal: you can't have a little small guy playing that position. You know why? I'm gonna be up against a tight end. Well, that tight end's gonna take you out if you're 225 pounds. Look at LSU's defense toward the end last year, okay? Had one guy with size. Everybody else, those guys were 210, 218. What? Smack me a tight end there and say, okay, come on, I'm gonna run the ball. That's what Florida did.
Right.
They challenged them. Hey, you wanna send all those guys? Good. I just flip it out to the back and let him run. You gotta be careful today as you are trying to match up coverage. Now teams are, okay, you getting smaller, we're going to play big boy football with you. We're going to smash mouth you, and we're going to run the ball at you. Staley knows that is going to transition from college to the pros, and we see it already. They're much smaller outside linebackers than ever before. We grew up in an era, those linebackers were big. So what has changed is not so much the athlete body type. Because that 3-4 outside linebacker where they were playing him before, playing defensive end. And just more, like him a little bit to the edge. And he could play defensive end. So, Eric, I'm just telling you now, and for everybody listening, in the next 4 to 5 years, watch how these big-time teams are going to try to line up front in a traditional 3-4. Find that guy now. So, in essence, the Lord giveth and he taketh away. This year he gives you the best class from talent depth standpoint I've ever seen up front. And now he's fixing to take it away. Because now, you know what? I see all those guys in high school. I ain't playing defensive end outside linebacker. I want to catch the ball. It's the glamour position. Even if I play tight end. And look, the money they're getting paid.
It's the money position.
And so, Eric, get used to it. And if I'm playing a team that's small, okay, I don't care if you're in college or the pros, but those small edge linebackers,
I'm going right now.
I'm going to put a big tight end, I'm going to play some 12 personnel and say, okay, see how long you stay in that spot.
Secondary, cornerback position in the draft, how deep?
It's not as good as I've seen in other years. It's got some depth to it, but man, it trails dramatically after the third round. You can see the drop off. There's more nickels now, and that's the other part of it, that in years past, I didn't look at a guy as a nickel corner. I do today. I did last year and the year before. Because you know what? You see that now. A nickel corner starting 70-something% of the time or more in the NFL. So you got to look at that particular part. Look what they've done to Alontae Taylor with the Saints. He started out wide. They put him in the middle. Now he's back on the edge.
I think he belongs at nickel. What are your thoughts?
I would much rather play him outside.
You like it? Why? Why would you rather him outside?
Because I think he matches up well against the bigger receiver. My thing with the nickel, and I got to talk to Marcus Colston at the Super Bowl, and we were talking about it even before we started the interview, and I said, I never saw a big man play slot till you did it. And he laughed and he said, I only played one position my entire career. I played the Y, wide, never played anything else.
Right.
So he says, Coach Payton comes up to me, hey, he says, Marcus, we're going to play you in the middle, in the slot. It's like, what? I never did that. He said, neither has anybody else. But he said, you'll be the first. And he said, watch how many others will do it now. So what Sean did a lot, and Marcus did play out wide, either X or Y, but then they put him inside as a slot. And all those little corners, now, because normally back then, the third corner was a 5'9", 5'10" guy. And man, I take a look, I got that 6'4" guy, even a bad pass.
No contest.
I'm going to make it. And so that was some of the genius of Sean, that he figured, I got a mismatch, and I got a guy that knows where to go with the ball. So that will be an interesting take in training camp of where you play Alontae.
I agree.
Now you've signed Isaac Yiadom to bring in.
Who is really an outside corner.
He's really an outside guy. The one thing with him, he has played in the nickel and dime sets. In a lot of it. Great special teams guy. You talk about a dude who's smart. Whoa, man. Bobby and I interviewed him, and I told Bob, hey, I said, we can say this a lot, but man, he almost makes you sound dumb. I mean, because he speaks so well, he understands it. So, we talked to Dennis Allen about him. He's like, just tell him once. He gets it. He understands this game at a different level. And he's also a good special teams guy. Now, is he a marginal average starting corner? I would say probably yes. But I can use him nickel, dime, I can move him around. And in this game today, you better have 4 corners that can play. Because one of those guys are going to get hurt.
I agree with that. And look, I like Taylor because of his ability to do so many things. Rush the passer, cover the tight end, cover running back out the backfield. I thought he struggled a little bit out on the outside last year. Maybe that was, again, not playing it as much, but I thought that was going to be his natural position, being the nickel.
Well, here's my deal with that. I don't all the time have to play him as an edge corner, because I could sit him as a slot at times and say, hey, listen, don't cover the guy. We got him on the back end. Get that guy with the ball. And I think he does that very well.
He does. Great, and runs
really, really well. So that versatility of Taylor and also of Isaac Yiadom really comes into play. I always thought would be the nickel guy was really Kool-Aid.
Did you really?
Yeah, because listening to Coach Saban talk about him, talked about that nickel and how we looked at that at a different level. And then I talked to Pete, Coach Jenkins, and he was like, Mike, I think you're right. I would put him in the nickel. He would seem to be perfect for that. He's smart, he's instinctive, and he can match up, and he's physical with a receiver. So the deal is today, if I get a smaller, quicker guy, I'm going to try to out-physical him and throw him off his route. The bigger guy, I want to be able to match up one-on-one, which I think Kool-Aid can do speed-wise. My opinion always was, I thought his best position was in the nickel.
See, and I thought the reason why they drafted him was to be the heir apparent from Marshawn Lattimore.
And it could still be. So that's why I say, I want to see how it turns out in training camp, where they line, and they're not going to tell you. No, if I was the Saints,
you got a new DC now, so he's got to be looking at these guys with fresh eyes.
And so now, your training camp, the first one's the toughest one. Because, even in talking to Coach Haslett when he was here, Coach Payton when he was here, man, he said the first one was difficult because you didn't really have a connection to those guys and what they do good and what they don't. And a lot of times, you know, and I give Jim credit on this, he would say, sometimes what you see on film is not what you see on the field. It kind of throws you a little bit. So what happens in the secondary? Nickel, dime, coverage sets, and who starts at the corners? I would say right off the bat, Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid on the edges. What happens in the slot? Because Yadam has really been more of the outside guy.
And played well there at times.
And played well there. So do you draft a nickel?
Which is why I asked you again about the cornerback position.
And so it's pretty good in the nickel spots.
So you think if they're going corner, they're going nickel?
I think they would. You want versatility. Right off the bat. You want a versatile guy. And because you don't want to overload the rookie with too much. And I'm not saying it happened last year, but man, them first couple games with Kool-Aid, he looked lost. He really did. And first thing Saban talked about him was, man, he's one of the smartest players I ever coached. Okay, if he's confused here, why wouldn't he have been confused at Alabama? Maybe too much water in the shot glass, so to speak, for him. So what you bring up is a good point. How it breaks down is going to be interesting to see how they use it. I can guess, but nobody knows what Staley's going to do at this point. It's just like, what are the Saints are going to do offensively? Okay, Kellen Moore, he ran the Eagles offense. Well, I would have ran the Eagles offense too. Run the football, and you know, with that offensive line, why am I throwing the football 40 times a game?
And look at your back.
Eric, I've never seen this stat before for a Super Bowl champ. They led the league in rushing carries. They were 32nd in passes thrown.
I didn't realize that. Really?
I've never seen that.
I knew they ran the ball a lot, but I didn't realize passes.
That was the disparity. You were 1 in carries and 32nd in passes thrown. Because, man, listen, if I had that offensive line and I got Saquon, I'm going to bury you.
Every time.
And, you know, you can bring people up on the line of scrimmage, fine. You bring it up, and then I throw the football to A.J. Brown or Devontae downfield and see what you do. Now I got you in the rocking chair. And you don't want to get your tail caught in the rocker, so to speak. And so I think Kellen will have to play to the talent he has, certainly. But I think what you're seeing now is more of him trying to reset an offensive line where we're going to run the ball. So one thing's right off the bat, you better get some depth and talent depth along the offensive line.
We were talking before the show right now. Salaveri and Hergel are the only two backups under contract right now.
And then you sign Clapp today.
Will Clapp today, but again, is Clapp your backup? A guy who's going to go?
Oh yeah, he's a backup.
So they're looking for a starting guard or a starting right tackle?
No, I would be looking for a starting left guard.
Okay.
Now I'm not into their rooms. To see what he thinks of Trevor Penning.
Moving inside.
I don't know that.
What are your thoughts? Because again,
my thing, if he had trouble outside, he's going to have trouble kicked inside. The same issues are going to happen. You're just kicking him inside.
You don't think it'll be covered up by Fuaga and McCoy to help out instead of being on an island?
You could, but okay, if you play in the Saints and you see that front five, where are you going?
I'm going right at him until he proves they can't do it.
And he is a good run blocker. I give him full credit there.
Which is why I thought left guard might be his spot.
He has improved as a pass protector. The crazy thing
Speed rush is killing though, man.
Is the fact that you watch him from game to game and he's different in every game. His footwork is all off, and that hand placement is the other part about it. I thought he got better as a hand placement guy. Here's my thing with Trevor. He almost came in here NFL neophyte. He had done it at the high school, college level. I'm bigger.
He was always the biggest guy in the right.
Come on, mash you. And very few guys are going to get past me because I'm going to catch you. Now you're playing in the NFL. What? You can be a big guy all you want. I'm going to run right past you. And it's a different game that he will be a better 5th, 6-year player than he was at 1, 2, and 3. Now, it wouldn't take much to be a better player, But I always felt, looking at him, it was going to take him some time. And, you know, I think if you kick him inside, the comparison could be Mekhi Becton.
I was going to just mention that.
Now, Mekhi played on the left side, and he got eaten alive on the left side. Then they moved him inside, and he lost some weight. And one thing with the Eagles, they have the best offensive line coach in America, that guy. And he took him, and he made him a very good offensive guard in year one. In year one.
Right.
Because you wondered a little bit, did they bring him in almost like a swing player? Maybe the original thought was, if something happens to a Lane, because Lane Johnson has went down the injuries quite a bit.
Right.
And then you got Matau on the other side, that maybe he would be the swing guy. And I think the coach looked at it and said, hey, you know, he's one of our top 5 guys. Let's kick him inside and see how well he plays. And I thought he was very good last year. He still got beat by speed moves. If you were going to get pressure, you got it on him. You weren't getting it on the other guys.
Right. But like Penning, a massive dude.
He's a big dude.
Right.
Now, the one thing he is going to have to learn how to do better and continue is his hand placement skills. Because sometimes he's real high or real low on his hand placement. He's going to have to get much better at that.
Right.
But I did think he was a better player this past season than he was the other 2 combined.
Right.
And maybe, you know, Zach Strief told me this. He was like, Mike, take a look at Trevor Penning. He's going to get about 20% of the snaps in practice that I got in year one. He said 20%. He said, reasoning why? We don't practice that way anymore. He said, and that's the thing that's killing this game for a big guy that needs to learn how to play.
No physicality.
You're not physical, and then you're so scared you get somebody hurt.
Right.
In practice. And then where's your depth? They got none.
Right.
So I always think back at what Zach told me in year one about Trevor, that, man, he's not getting the reps he needs. He's just not. He said, you know, you can play him in a preseason game, but then, you know, you also want to take a look at somebody else in case he can't play the entire time. So, yeah, Eric, is the offensive line and the secondary for me are the 2 things of concern for me.
Me too.
On this football team. Defensive line, I think eventually that will come around.
Godchild helps with the run stuff in now, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let's hold it there. Let me grab a quick break here. We'll come back. I want to touch on that because, again, that look, one of the things the Saints have to do is be able to stop the run. So we'll take a break here. We'll hear from our underwriters. Mike Detillier is with us. I'm Eric Asher. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. All right, Mike, offensive line, secondary, we both agree those are 2 priorities for the Saints. We were just talking off camera here. Will Campbell, where do you think he plays in the pros? Do you think he gets to 9? If he does, do you think that's a player the Saints may have an interest in?
I think there is a legitimate shot he gets to 9. Because look at the needs of the other teams, and a lot of those teams that maybe were looking at offensive line, have filled those needs with veterans. And I keep seeing people that want to reinvent the wheel with Will Campbell. Okay, he's never played guard in his life. He's been a left tackle. And he's been a really good one.
Yes.
A really good one, left tackle.
What would you do?
I put him at left tackle.
Right. You move Fuaga over, back to right?
I'd move Talaiase over to the right side, his more natural position. Man, okay, everybody said, oh, I saw him get beat against Florida. So what? You saw him beat one time?
Right.
Okay, it's like seeing a cornerback get beat. Okay, yeah, he's not going to win every battle.
Right.
But I also saw him mash a lot of people too.
Yeah. He mentioned again he would like to play in New Orleans, which again was
that's always been. He actually came to our pro football camp.
Okay.
Dr. David Elias, his camp, and I asked him about, man, from the North Louisiana. I don't know. Oh, I've always been a Saints fan because sometimes people from North Louisiana.
Yeah, right. Your dad was Cowboy fan.
Cowboy
fan.
Yeah. Not him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I've always been a Saints fan, and man, I'd love to play for the Saints. And man, you think he's big until you stand up next to him. And he's a big man. Right. Now, all this arm size and all this, all I know is if he gets his hands on the right place, you ain't going anywhere. Right. Again, there are people that want to reinvent the wheel, that you've got to be a certain length.
Right.
Your hand size got to be a certain. Come on, how ridiculous.
You can play, you can play.
That's the way I look at it.
Right.
Okay, and if you had your choice of any offensive lineman to start the 2024 season in college football, who would you have taken?
Everybody was looking at Campbell.
Everybody.
Come on.
Now, the one guy who's made a nice jump, and I would also consider him too, Armand Mimbu from Missouri.
Right.
Okay, he's not your typical 6'5", 330-pound guy. You're talking about an athlete. And he plays right tackle. So you could keep, if you think Fuaga's good at left, you could play Mimbu on the right side.
But that means you're giving up on Penning on the right side and you're admitting a mistake.
Or, like what you say,
move him inside.
Kick him in.
I think that's the natural place for him.
I've heard the same argument that goes for Campbell has went for Mimbu.
Right.
Because he's 6'3" and a little chain. So what?
Right.
Again, sometimes it's the semantics of this that drives me nuts.
Right.
And it's all these cats that they just watch it on film. They ain't watched one full game of Mimbu or Missouri or Will Campbell in their life.
Just cutouts?
Cutouts of them. Watch if they can play.
Yeah.
And so I would not object if it's Campbell or Mimbu in round one.
Well, it's so rare for a player to come out and say, I'd like to be with a team. That's why I mentioned it. And when
he does mean it.
Okay, and it's so rare for them. Usually it's wherever I go, I'm going to be happy.
Now it's changed a little bit because in the last week, the Saints have signed Davin Godchaux and Will Clapp.
Right.
Two LSU guys.
Totally different than during the Peyton.
They have stayed away from LSU guys in the past.
Absolutely.
Almost like something's wrong. Campbell, I'm not saying pick him because he's at LSU.
No, of course not.
I'm telling you that a team that picks him, you getting a starting left tackle for a long time in this league, and a real good one. And when you pick Mimbu, you are getting a starting right tackle for a long time.
Right.
Now, are both of them 6'5"? No. Are they 330? No. Do they have this great length? Mimbu's got a little bit better length than Campbell, but man, just watch him. Nobody beats him.
Right.
I mean, it is a rare occurrence. So, if your thought process is this, I can get me a defensive lineman closer to that guy at 9 when I pick at 40 than I can an offensive lineman in a short class of offensive line this year. It's not as thick.
Right, because you mentioned as we opened the show, very deep at defensive line.
Not as well, because you can't have almost back-to-back years where the linemen are so plentiful as it was a year ago.
Yes.
And so, Eric, I would have no objection. Offensive, defensive line in rounds 1 and 2. Okay, Super Bowl taught you one thing.
Right.
You win in the trenches.
And you got to.
And the greatest player today, he was a mere mortal under that pressure. He was running for his life.
Right. You look at
He had no chance. On every snap.
Game over.
And you could see in the second quarter almost him feeling pressure that was not actually there.
Right.
He was trying to get out of there knowing, man, the last play, they were right on me. And so, listen, it happens to the greatest ones. And you saw it happen to Mahomes.
Yeah.
They couldn't protect him. Here's my thing about that game that Andy Reid, I bet, runs through his head over and over. Why didn't I run the ball? Man, the Eagles, they were shooting the gaps every time. Man, they run a little delay, run the football. He stayed away from that. And in essence, what Sirianni and Moore did was flip the script. We're going to run it and run it and run it. And I give the Chiefs credit. Their front seven did pretty good against the run. Then what they do, they lull you to sleep, hit you a deep pass, or hit your pass over the middle.
Right.
So they caught you in the rocking chair, literally.
I want to talk about a couple things here before we finish up. Number one, loss of Adebo to the Giants.
That didn't surprise me. I like the way he played when he played, though he got beat a lot. And he had a habit of when he got beat, he grabbed you.
Yeah.
Okay, so they called it on him.
Right.
And so the way I look at it, I didn't think the Saints would spend that kind of money on him.
I didn't either. So
coming off the injury.
So Yedem compared to Adebo.
Oh, Debo's a much better player.
No doubt. I would agree with that.
As a starting player.
Right.
Because to me, Isaac is more of a borderline guy.
Okay.
But he's versatile.
Right.
Across the board. Debo, I mean,
if he stays healthy and again can get the he's a physical player.
He always
get the hands under control. He's going to be an outstanding
always been a good player. Again, the one thing coming out of college and it stayed with him.
Right.
He was grabby.
Right, grabby. That's right. And we saw it his whole time here.
And so, man, and then you get the reputation of being grabby. But here's the crazy part about it. Mid-season, I was watching Bill Belichick on the show that he did with NFL Network.
Yep.
And he had him on his starting team of players across the NFL because he loved his physicality. Right. And you can see that part from a defensive coach. And he tackled well in space.
Yeah.
That was the other part that really Bill liked about him.
They lose Harris to the Commanders, but they bring in Justin Reed, Louisiana native from Kansas City. Upgrade?
Oh, yeah. Will, I always thought was a fringe guy, kind of similar to Yedem in that you could play him in a lot of different spots, but he never really excelled at one spot.
Right.
When he played last year, that's the best football I ever saw Will Harris play in the NFL.
He was a hammer for them.
He was really good. Yeah. He was your intimidator in the secondary. Justin Reed, now I knew his brother Eric Bell. Eric I knew him much better than I knew Justin. And then Justin left to go play at Stanford. And so that tells you one thing, he's one smart cat. Right. He knows what to do.
Right.
And we have 3 coaches every year that are with the Chiefs that come to our Louisiana line camp. All 3 on defense. And when they signed Justin, first thing I asked him is, man, we got him for 2 reasons. One, he is so smart. He's rarely out of position. And secondly, we got to shore up the running game. And he comes up the scene and run support. Now, Brandon Daly, who coaches the linebackers, last year I had a talk with him and he said, Mike, he's really improved as a cover guy. He's handled that much better than I thought he did out in Houston. I thought he handled it better. And so you've seen the improvement in him as a cover guy. He's a really good athlete too. But what they brought up about intelligence and physicality against the run. And this team couldn't stop the run at all last year.
Right, exactly why they went out and got Gottschall, right?
And why they got Justin. That's a big part of it.
Right, I agree.
People talk about, I'll watch this little film of quarters coverage and half. Okay, he's gotten better in the coverage game. You know why he's really good at safety? Man, he pops you. And he's not afraid to come up the seam to make a good open field tackle. When they've had him, almost like a center fielder, he's done a good job.
Right.
So he's versatile on that.
But that'll probably be Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But if you want to shoot Tyrann off the edge, he can play that deep cover safety.
Right. We mentioned in passing Davon Gacho coming to New Orleans, again from New England, a guy that's been pretty much an Iron Man up in New England, a physical run stuffer. I read a couple of things saying that he was a declining player. Others said that, again, that New England was really going to miss him because of his ability to stop the run.
I agree. He left New England because Mike, who has always been a bit of a 3-4 guy, but if you look at what he did in Tennessee, he was a tight 3-4. In essence, what we talked about with Iowa. He was tight with it, because the one thing you want to do, you want to free Jeffrey Simmons up. That's what he was wanting to do. So teams got a little bit antsy, how are we going to block Jeffrey? It opened up everything for the other guys.
Right.
My thing with Davon, he's give you a little bit of a push in the middle as a pass rusher. He is really good against the run, and his ability to take on blocks and a free open a linebacker to run right into that gap.
Which is what you do in the 3-4, right?
That's exactly
what the scenario is there.
So I can shade him left, shade him right. Every once in a while, put him right over the top, the center, as a typical nose guard. But Eric, it's not your traditional 3-4 alignment. It's funny, Monday, when Brandon Staley was being asked questions by the media, Jeff Duncan pressed him on 3-4 alignment, and he would not commit. That, to me,
well, there's a transition period, right?
That's a little transition where I think he's like, you know what? We can maybe hybrid this and do it the tight formation.
Because of the prototype of players that he has and the inability to turn that roster over.
You can't, you're not going to do it in 1 year.
You can't do it in 1 year.
You can't do it. If that's the case, then my deal is going to be, priority is going to be high on getting you another edge guy.
Okay.
That is, if you're going to do that, you better
get depth of the edge is?
What's that?
The depth of the edge
is good.
Real good?
Really good.
Okay. And
so there's a lot of hybrid guys that have played with their hand in the dirt or stand up.
Right.
It's in this draft class. Foskey has done some of that and did some of that at Notre Dame.
I remember that.
Can he do it in the pros?
Right. Well, he better be able to, because he hasn't been able to do it.
I don't know.
He better be able to do it in the pros.
No, here's the deal. And everybody, they'll call in and they'll say, okay, like Caden Ellis' first couple of years, he wasn't much here, and then all of a sudden that last year with the Saints, you could see it.
They put him in a position to be successful, though.
He rushed a quarterback. Okay, Zach Vaughn, every once in a while, kick him out there, and then they special teams, everything else. Even Vic Fangio, he told Bobby Hebert, I didn't know what I had with him. I didn't see all that on film, but he worked at it, and we find the right spot.
Right.
It was the fit that was right.
Right.
And Vic knew what to do with him, but he's like batting 500 because he said, you know what? I brought in Devin White too. Devin didn't finish the season in Philly. He wasn't the right fit. Right. Now, if I'd have told you before the season, what guy's going to fit?
I said Devin White, so Devin White's going to be the guy. Come on.
And it wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't. No, not at all.
So, can Foskey fit that mold?
Right. Well, to recruit, to get something out of that second round pick, he better be able to. Who is Jack Stoll?
Jack's a guy, I saw him at Nebraska. He was a big part of their passing offense.
Okay, tight end they just picked up.
They just picked
from Philadelphia.
up. And he sort of has bounced a little bit. He was with Philly, went to Miami, Philly, and that sort of thing. What he's really good at, he's a good inline blocker. Man, I don't know who's worked with him on that. Eric, he is really good. And you can see his power explosion from the lower body, his ability to get, he gets his hands on you right away. And then he steers you. And in that Eagles offense, that's what they want that inline blocker to do. Now, Dallas Goedert, he ain't doing that. He's more of the stand-up, almost flex tight end.
Right.
But when he got to play, when Stahl got to play, that was his strength. And so this is my thoughts now. Are they trying to set up a lot of 12 personnel where you have two tight ends on the field? Try to run the ball better. And he is a physical player at the point of attack. He's a good receiver. But he's not special after the catch. He's not super quick, super fast. But man, he's going to help you in the running game and in pass protection. Right. Bobby and I talk about this all the time. That man, a lot of times people, man, they missed the block, the offensive line, and sometimes it's the tight end. Sometimes it's the running back. He goes out for a pass. He don't know you got to stay in and block.
Right.
You know, he forgot what to do. That's where a guy like Stahl can make, and you don't have to have a starter on every free agent pickup.
Right.
Role player.
Right.
He knows what he's got to do. He is your blocker, extra blocker, as a tight end.
Cam Jordan restructures his deal. Most people think it's a pay cut. Where does he fit in this defense?
I still think he would play edge. Okay.
Stand up?
It could be.
Or a 3-4 a defensive end.
No, I think he was better. It depends on how it lines up. He's really better off the edge.
Me too, I agree.
He's really better off the edge. And at his age, as a rotation guy, because the one thing with Cam, and he's always sort of been that way since after year one, he gets sacks in like intervals of like 3 or 4 games, maybe he piles them up, and then maybe a couple games not, then bang, he hits it again. That's how pass rushers are. There is still a role for Cam Jordan here. Now, you know, you and I talked about this the last time, and I'm 99.9% sure this happened, that he had that sit down with Mickey Loomis, with Kellen Moore, and say, hey, listen, we understand you're in the winter years. Do you want to finish it here? If you want to, let's try to work out a deal. Not as much money. You understand what we in with payroll. And if you don't, we'll cut you loose, and you can sign with a contender.
Try to get a ring.
Yeah, exactly. You're chasing it at that point. And I think he made the decision. He wanted to start it here, finish it here.
Which is incredible. I got to be honest with you. Wide receiver position. MVS moves on to Seattle. You've got Olave coming off a concussion. Rashid Shaheed is constantly injured. What does the wide receiver position look like in the college come out this year? And if that's not an answer for them, is there anyone on the market they're going to go out and maybe go get? I'd heard Cooper Kupp. He's over 30. He's often injured now, even though he may be a fit. What are your thoughts?
Okay, here's my thing with Cooper Kupp. He was healthy last year toward the end of the season, but he wasn't the man. Okay.
Right.
Sean McVay, man, that Puka Nacua was, he's the guy.
Right.
Okay. And you never know when you lose it, okay, in this athletic world.
Right.
Can he still be a productive player? Yes. But people talk about Cooper Kupp like he played back 4 years ago. That's not
the same guy now.
That's not reality
it's not.
into the deal. Could he play a major role on a team? Yes. But he's not going to be your number one.
Right.
No matter where he goes. He's going to be a 2 option. Now, he's still, man, a crafty route runner. He knows how to set you up. But you can see in his movement, he's not quite as quick, not quite as fast as he once was. And that's what time and injuries do to you as an athlete. This draft is not loaded with wide receivers. I'll be honest.
Okay.
The last 4, I bet 3 of them, if I was to grade it, it's either A+ or A-.
Right.
This year, it would be the B.
So, free agency?
I think you have to do both. Eric, you have to do both.
Okay.
I'm a little surprised. Scantling.
Me too. I thought he would stick around.
He was a good fit. But here's the deal.
It's only $5.5 million.
We were talking about this, Charlie and I, on air, and he was like, I know you saw him a lot more than me. He always had the dropsies. Everywhere he was, I said, man, he's been like this from high school to college to the pros. He came to the Saints, he caught every damn pass they throw.
And was a deep threat.
And he's a big man.
Yeah, no, he is.
So that sort of surprised me. Now, I don't know financially what they wanted to do with Scantling.
Right.
But I thought if they're going to keep Derek Carr,
Right.
he's the guy Derek was looking at
Yes.
as the deep guy downfield.
Right, and they had a connection, no doubt about it. I'm going to get back to football in a minute. I want to make a mention of what's going on in basketball. LSU lost last night, 91-62 to Mississippi State. If 14 teams are taken into the NCAA tournament out of the SEC, then they will have an NIT bid because it's an automatic qualifying bid for 2 teams in the SEC. So stay tuned for that. They finished the season 14-18. Tulane's men's basketball team, again, they are the 4th seed of the AAC tournament. They got the double bye. They will play 2 o'clock. And that opponent yet to be determined. LSU's again waiting on their seeding of the NCAA tournament, probably a 3 seed. They'll play their first 2 games in Baton Rouge. Southern won the SWAC regular season, but again lost to Grambling yesterday. So in overtime, they finished 20-12. They won't go to the NCAA tournament. The team that wins the tournament will end up in the NCAA. The SLU women, 26-4, 19-1. They beat Incarnate Word yesterday, 57-37. They got Stephen F. Austin in the championship game today. So that means, again, if they win, they advance to the NCAA tournament.
Okay, Eric.
Go ahead.
I'm going to throw something in. Because if he watched this show, he'd get mad at me. How about Will Wade and McNeese?
Well, it was going to look, first of all, did you hear him last night? Back-to-back championships in the Southland. And he made a promise to again, the athletic director and the president of the university, he would stay for 2 years. Every indication I'm watching him last night is telling me he's on his way out. Yeah. But he did an incredible job at McNeese.
And before they made the formal announcement at McNeese, I texted him. I said, come on, WWL. He said, I can't do it. I got to do the formality first. I said, man, come on, you ain't never been formal with me. Come on, dude. He was like, okay, you twisted my arm. I'm going to do it. He came on, and so we all talking. And it was a kind of a throwaway question, but it was like, what are you looking for in year 1 at McNeese? He said, what am I looking for? We're going to be the Southland Conference champs year 1. And he was dead serious.
What did he say? They lost 26 games the year before. He says, well, I guarantee we win 26. They ended up winning 30.
Yeah.
Okay?
Whatever you want to think about him.
No, he's a hell of a coach,
he
hell of a recruiter.
Is a real good coach.
And he took the walk, he was a sacrificial lamb for football, okay, in that investigation.
They rolled him over.
And that's why people can't ask me all the time, can Will Wade go back to LSU? Can they hit?
What?
Why would he go back to LSU? He was a sacrificial lamb. He's not going to LSU.
And he ain't going back as long as Scott Woodward's
right. He's going to go to an SEC school so he can play LSU.
Exactly. But every time he sees me, before he even tells me hello, he'll always look at me and he winks. Talent procurement, son. And that has always been a part of his game, that he's like, listen, I got limitations as a coach. I understand that. But if I got better players than you,
and he's got the eye
I got a chance to beat you. And he's got a good eye for talent.
Yeah, he does.
Also, too, what Tevin Sadler has done at Nicholls State, it has never been done before. Back-to-back 20 wins in a season.
Right.
Man, what Book has done there has been unbelievable.
Right.
Youngest coach in college basketball.
Right.
And he took over, and I was like, man, I don't know. That young guy's taking over. He's never been in that spot. Man, Book has done a great job. So congratulations, Tevin Sadler, who's been a great addition at Nicholls. Now, they're going to be like McNeese.
Right.
Is to keep him.
Right. That's going to be the tough part anytime you get a really good young coach. I got 30 seconds. Can you tell me what you think about Kyle Williams?
Kyle is tough, smart. I think he's going to end up being one heck of a coach for LSU. And he'll stay for more than a year.
Which is one of the reasons why they want to bring him in, right?
And he's a good technician.
Right.
You don't play 13 years in the NFL because you're that talented.
Right.
You look at him. Right. He's barely 6 foot tall. He ain't 300 pounds. He won because he was a great technician. He was tough. And if you in a fight, you don't want to look across and see him. You want him behind you because you're going to get out. That's how tough he is. And I think he'll end up being a really good coach for LSU.
Mike, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mike Detillier, what a breath of information, huh? Mike Detillier with us again here on Inside New Orleans Sports this evening. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube channel, also to my website. Look, here's the easiest way to do it. Set your DVR, you'll never miss the program. Between Pelican Sports Television, WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV 2, so many ways to catch our program. Set the DVR, you'll never miss the show. Catch me on the radio, 4 to 6 weekdays, 106.1 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. We also have an app, 106.1 The Ticket app, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Red app, other digital platforms that you can also check out the show as well. Also, again, want to thank the underwriters who make our show possible. Each one of those underwriters, we thank them so much. Please support the underwriters who support our program, and of course, the folks here at WLE who do a great job producing our program every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Mike Detillier, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.